Yes, we can.
Yeah, that's yes.
Okay, so yeah, let's dive in. So our agenda for today, we are going to dive into three major topics. One, we'll discuss what are route guards and why we use route guards in the first place. Then I'll explain the reasons for the transition from class-based guards to functional route guards and the advantages that the functional route guards have over class-based guards. Then we'll go over the types of route guards and some use cases for them. Then finally, we'll end with some code to see how they can be applied in a real project. Yeah, but before I dive in, I'm pretty sure most of you guys don't know who I am. So who am I? I'm Patrick Murimi, currently a student at the University of Eldoret. I'm the GDSC lead there, also a beta MLSA, postman student leader, a gold fellow at the room and a front engineer trainer markets. Yeah, and I specialize in Angular, and I really love Angular. And so let's dive in. The first topic, what are route guards? So functional route guards, in this case, are used in Angular applications to protect routes based on specific conditions or criteria. They're implemented as functions and executed before a route is activated. So basically, just as the name suggests, route guards, they guard routes. They guard routes and from unauthorized access. So just as they guard routes from unauthorized access. And when you look at the code later on, you'll just see that they're just functions that return true or false depending on a specific condition. Yeah, so they just protect your routes against unauthorized access. So why should you use route guards? So route guards ensure that a user is authenticated before accessing certain routes. I'm sure some of you have tried looking at these blog websites. For example, Medium. You can scroll through the platform, and at some point, if you want to create your own blog, you'll be required to log in. So you'll be required to authenticate before you access that certain route for writing a blog. Route guards also enforce authorization rules for specific routes. Let's say in a website, you have different levels of users. We have guests, you can have users, you can have admins. So the routes are protected using the route guards. They enforce such rules for specific routes. They also prevent unauthorized users from accessing sensitive areas of application. Let's say a dashboard that only the admin can access. They prevent other users, unauthorized users, from accessing them. And yeah, can have the settings page or the user profiles, etc. Route guards also perform additional checks or actions before navigating to a route. Such actions can be, for example, ensuring that the data is fetched before navigating to a certain route. So they check that action before going through that route. So yeah, and basically they protect your routes. It's not that it's simple really. So they just protect your routes from unauthorized access, and looking at the code, you'll see it's a function that returns true or false depending on a specific condition. So yeah, uh, let's go ahead and discuss the transition from class-based guard to functional route guards. So in earlier versions, Angular route guards were typically implemented as classes with specific interfaces like can activate and can activate child. Don't worry about them, we'll look at them later on. But just note, earlier on, we were using classes and implemented them using some interfaces. And with the introduction of Angular 10 plus, a more flexible approach using functional route guards became available. So why did they switch to functional route guards? So let's look at some of the let's look at a code snippet for class-based route guards to see how they look like. So these are snapshots of as a code snippet of a class-based route guard, and it's simple. At the top, you have some packages being imported, then an injectable decorator. Then at the bottom, you have the class, the auth guard, which implements the can activate route guard. So you see, we use classes here, and then the function that returns true or false is there at the bottom, the can activate function. It returns true or false depending on the logic that the developer writes to authenticate the user. So this is an example of a class-based route guard. Let's look at a functional route guard next. So yeah, pretty similar, but the code is reduced. You have the necessary packages imported, then just one function that returns the same true or false Boolean variable depending on the logic. So you can see that this is a simplified version of the route guards. And moving forward, that brings us to some advantages. Let's look at some advantages of functional route guards. As you saw earlier, functional route guards have simplified implementation. They are easier to write and easier to understand compared to those of classes. They have reduced boilerplate code. There's no need to create separate classes for each guard. Just create another function. There's improved maintainability. Guards can be defined inline with the route configuration, making it easier to locate and manage them. We'll look at that later on. Then you have better type inference. So here, TypeScript can accurately infer types in functional guards. And also you can see, let me go back a bit. For the functional guards, functional route guard, it returns, in this example, it returns a can activate function as the return type. For the class-based, it has several return types. And there's another advantage for functional route guards. So yeah, when the release came for the functional route guards, the feedback has been generally positive from the Angular community. The community recognizes the benefits for improved code clarity, flexibility, and alignment with the overall Angular development style. So it was a step in the right direction for the Angular dev community. Yeah, let's now dive into the types of route guards. Then we look at the use cases. So there are several types of route guards, but we'll just go through five of them. So here they are. We have the can activate functional route guard, which determines whether a route can be activated or not. It just checks if the current user is authorized to access that route, if they can activate. If they can access, then they move forward. If not, they are either redirected to a login page or it returns false. So then you have the can activate child. So this route guard is similar to can activate, but it applies to child routes within a parent route. So it does the same thing as the can activate, checks whether the user is authorized to access a certain route, but for child routes only. Then we have the can deactivate route guard. And unlike the previous guards, the can deactivate focuses on route deactivation. It checks whether the user can navigate away from a route. So if you're in a specific route, let's say /books, and you want to go back, it checks whether you're authorized to navigate away. And these can be applied in, let's say, a form in an e-commerce website where you're filling in your bank details when checking out. Then you remember you haven't added something to a cart and you try to go back. And maybe you had added some details and you didn't save them. When you try to navigate away from that route, you might be prompted you might be prompted at the top saying, like you can get a prompt saying, are you sure you want to discard your changes? Then you can click OK or cancel, depending on what you want to do. So that's the can deactivate route guard in work. Then we have the CanMatch route guard. It's used to determine whether the current user is allowed to match a particular route. So it functions similarly to the CanActivate. It also checks if that user is authorized to access that route, but it has some additional functionality, which we'll see later on. And yeah, it was introduced in Angular version 14 plus. Then lastly, we have the resolve route guard. So this route guard basically ensures that data is fetched before navigating that route. Right? Let's say you are accessing a route that renders a component with many products, right? Many products, and it takes a long time to load. So this resolve route guard ensures that the data is fetched first before accessing that route. Because in some cases you'll see an empty page first, then the data comes later on, which is bad for user experience. So yeah, enough talk. Let's dive into some code. Let me try sharing my code screen. So yeah, here's the code. I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this application, let me just have it real quick. Maybe let me share the entire screen. So yeah. So this is the project. I made a small project to showcase how the different route guards work and for you to see how you can use them as an Angular developer. Let's wait for it to solve. Yeah, so in this application, we have different routes. We have the admin route that renders the admin component, the home route rendering the home component, the about, same with the about component. So you have different routes here. We have a products route that lazy loads a products component, and when all of these routes can't be accessed, there's a wildcard route. Not found component will be rendered. So let's see how this website looks. Yes, Joy, you have a question?
No, sorry.
Okay. So yeah, this is a simple that app I made. There's a side nav on the left which accesses the different routes. We have the home route. Click on the about. We have the about route. The text says you can only see this page if you're logged in. And obviously it doesn't work because you're not logged in. We have the contact page for contacting the owners of this site. We have the products page that has child routes. We have the add product route. Yeah, don't worry, I didn't implement it I did it just for the child routes to get the child route. Then you have the fetch all products route, which is a child of the product. So yeah, and then lastly you have the login route. A user can log in. So first of all, we'll start by implementing the CanActivate function to place the route guard on this route to make sure that only users who have logged in can access the about route. So yeah, let's see how we can do that. So to generate a route guard, you use the Angular CLI ng generate guard, and then I'll specify the folder to place it in, and then the name. Let's call it login. The login guard. So this guard will be responsible for ensuring that the about page can't be accessed without being authenticated. So yeah. Yeah, and when you type that Angular CLI command, you'll be prompted to choose a few route guards. You have the can activate route guard, can activate child, can deactivate it, and can match. So in this case, we'll be using the can activate, and here it's sorry for that. Yeah, so here it's been created, it's been scaffolded. So yeah, we should implement this. And as I said earlier, it's just a simple function that returns a true or false depending on a specific condition. So the condition here is that the user needs to be logged in. Let's go through the app structure for a moment so you can get the context. So we have a main folder that contains all the different components that are rendered on the side nav. We have the about component, the admin component, which should only be accessed by an admin level user. We have the contact component, the home, the login, the not found, and then the products module, which contains other child components. We also have a model for the product, fetching the product from public API. We have the nav, which is responsible for displaying the nav on the left using Angular material. Then you have the services. We have an old service and a product service. So old service just simply checks if a user is logged in. It's a simple implementation. So these are the user details if you want to log in as a user. These are the details if you want to log in as an admin. For the product, fetch the product from this Fixstore API. So yeah, and this old service has different methods that relate to the old service. So now let's implement this login guard. So the logic here should be, it should return true if the user is logged in. Otherwise, redirect them to the login page, right? So first thing, since we're using a function, you can't use a constructor to inject a dependency. Use the inject keyword. Yeah. First, let me import the product service, the old service, sorry, the old service authentication, and import the inject. Inject, yeah, the inject from Angular.com. Then you define them here, console service, and then you should return true if they're logged in. So return all service dot has user access. You're checking if they're logged in as a user. If they're logged in as a user, you should return true. Otherwise, I haven't defined the router dependency. Import it. So if the user has access, is logged in, return true. Otherwise, navigate the login page. And this should work. So now the function is complete. So now let's add it to the about route. So the routes are defined here. So this is the route that we add. So to add that route guide to a specific route, you simply state the name. So you have different connectivate child. In this case, on the connectivate, then you add the function in an array. That array. So now, if the user isn't logged in, isn't authenticated, they can't access it. So let's see. It in action. So this is the home page. Let's try accessing the about page. You can see here we're being redirected to the login page. We're accessing it again. I'm being redirected to the login page. Let me log in using the user account, using that email. Login, yeah, now I can access the about page, and I can also log out. If I log out, I can't access it. Let me log in again. So if I'm logged in, I can access that site. So yeah, this works as intended, and that is the CanActivate function, CanActivate route guide. Let's also log in using the admin. CanActivate can also be used to, as I said earlier, can be used to enforce authorization to specific routes. Let's say you have an admin dashboard. So as you saw here earlier, let me log in using the admin. So if I log in using an admin, using the admin details, I can see the admin dashboard here. So this admin dashboard can only be accessed by an admin. But if I log out, then I log in using the user details, I can't access the admin page. So yeah, I don't think that's about route guides. It just where is it? I just did wrote some logic for that. The home page, yeah. There's no route guides in there, but that's just an example you can use route guides for. So in this example, we use the login guide to access the about page. You can use the same here, but yeah, no worries. Let's now go to the CanActivate child. So the CanActivate child route guide ensures that the children routes are protected within a parent route. So we have these products route. So this is the parent route, and these are the children routes. You also want to protect them such that only a user that is logged in can access them. So let's look at them now. So as it stands, you can the without necessarily having logged in, right? The products, I can add a product, I can fetch all products. Yeah, there's no need to log in. Let's implement that using the can activate child route code. So it's just similar to what we did with the can activate. You just type the name and then you select the can activate child, and then you input function that does the logic. So in this case, put the login guard here. If I save that, oh, sorry. Yeah, if I save that, so this is the home. I'm not logged in, can't access the bot. We're accessing the products. Now we're accessing the children of this product route. I'm redirected to the login page since I haven't logged in. And this applies to all the children. Yeah, so let's log in to access it. And yeah, you can access them using the route guards. It's pretty simple actually. Function that returns true or false. Now let's look at the can deactivate route guard. So the can deactivate works differently from these two. As you saw, these two check if the current user is authorized to access a certain route. If they are, can access it. If they can't, if they are not authorized, they can't access it. So they can deactivate checks if the user wants to navigate away from the route, and then issues a prompt like, are you sure you want to move away from this route? Something like that. So let's implement that guard using the same command ng generate guard, putting it in a guards folder, call it contact, because this is specifically for the contact page. So what you want to do here, you want to have a scenario such that if I'm in the contact page and I want to navigate away from this contact page, I am prompted and I'm asked if I'm sure that I want to navigate away from this route. So yeah, let's implement it. You generate this guard here using the Angular CLI and generate guards contact. And here you can you're prompted again to choose, and in this case you're using the can deactivate route guard, and it shows up here for the contact. So in this case, I'm not going to use like some complex logic to determine true or false. I'm just going to return a prompt. I actually want to leave this page, and how the confirm works. If the response to this confirm is true, then you can read this. You can leave this route. If you say cancel, then you'll stay at that route. Now let's implement it on the products route. No, contact. So yeah, just like the other, type it, can deactivate, you paste it. So yeah, according to the code now, if I want to navigate away from the contact route, I should be prompted and issued a confirmation. So here I am in the contact route. Let's try to go to the home route. Yeah, are you sure to leave this page? If I'm sure, I can leave. If I try to navigate again to a different route, I'm prompted again. Are you sure to leave this page? Let's say cancel. Then I'll stay here. So these, as I said earlier, can be used in e-commerce in different apps, like an e-commerce website where you are adding items to a cart, and then you finally want to check them out, and then you've added your details, your bank details, etc, and you remember there's an item you wanted to add earlier, and these changes are not saved. So try to go back and you haven't saved these changes. Maybe then you're then prompted. Are you sure you want to leave this page? If you want to save these changes, you can go back, save them, then go back later. So that's a use case for the can deactivate route card. Yeah. So the next route guard we're going to look into is the resolve route guard. So the resolve allows data prefetching. It ensures that the data is fetched before a route is accessed. And here we're going to add that route guard to the product/all. Yeah. I want you to know something. When I click on this to access the websites, okay, let me log in first. So if I click on fetch all products, you can see there's a delay. There's a delay here before the products are fetched. Let's see it again. And I click on it, there's a delay, there's an empty page, and the products are fetched. So what do you want to do here? We want to ensure that all these products are fetched first before accessing this route. And you do that using the resolve guard. And now this is created differently from the route guards. You use ng generate resolve, ng generate r, then put in a resolve as folder, then I'll call it products, since I want to resolve the products. And here it's created for us the products resolver. So the products resolver works differently from the typical route guards. So a typical route guards returns true or false depending on the conditions, but product resolver returns the data type in question that you want to resolve. So in this case, you want to resolve the products that are being fetched. And I created a products model earlier on, a product, and you want to return an array. So here we'll import product service, and we'll just then it will inject it once. Now it's injected. So note, we are supposed to return the product array. We want to resolve this product data type. So we return the the function that gets these products. So let's look at that function. So this function basically accesses this route and returns the products. So that's what we return, an observable that returns the product array data type. And once this data has been fetched, has been loaded, only then can that route be accessed. Let's now use it on the products all route. And to implement it, you use the resolve keyword. Then you create an object, and in this object you will have a key. So in this case, let's use the products key. Use the products key, and then we'll import this products resolver. Yeah, and you're done. So basically you're saying only show this route once these products have been resolved. So if I try to click on the fetch all products in the app, it won't show the route immediately. It will wait until the products have been fetched, and then it will show that route. So let's first log in and access the products. So this is the route. When I click on it, notice that it doesn't show up immediately, and it only shows up when the products have been fetched. It waits for a while and the products are fetched. So I don't think there's much difference here, but if you have tons of items that are being fetched, let's say comments, products that are being fetched, this resolve guard comes in handy pretty much. So yeah, make sure it ensures that the data is prefetched before accessing a certain route. So yeah, now we have looked at the can activate route guard for the about route. We have looked at the can deactivate route guard that checks if you want to navigate away from a route, and the can deactivate child route, and the resolve guard. So the last one that we should look at is the CanMatch, the CanMatch route guard. So let me go back to the app routing module. So the CanMatch is similar to the CanActivate. Let me show you. So in this CanActivate, it basically says activate this route only if they are logged in. Let me replace that with the CanMatch. So if I edit that and save, if you look at your application, it works the same. I can't access the about page without logging in. Yeah, it works the same. I need to be logged in. I need to be authenticated in order to access this. So it works the same in that sense. But here's the difference. And for context, let me just show you guys another route, another route to what's the word? Like the error catcher, the 404 error page. So if I try to access a route that is not specified in the app routing module, let's say about this, it will redirect me to the error 404 not found page. Yeah, and it will work with any route that's not defined. So note that these CanMatch and CanActivate basically do the same in ensuring that a user is authorized before accessing a route. So where does the difference come in? Let me show you. So another feature that is pretty cool in the route guards. Let me use the CanActivate here. You can actually implement the function within this array. You can have an arrow function let's say, evaluates to true by default. Yeah. An array, I can activate that the evaluates to true by default, so we don't need to log in. So yeah, if I try to access this route, the home, about, no problem. It's defaulted to true. So what happens if the condition is false? So what happens if the condition is false? So if it is false, I can't access the route, basically. That's how the connectivity works. So if I click on the about, notice I'm clicking on it, but nothing's happening. I click on different routes, they show, but if I click on the about, nothing's happening because it evaluates to false. But let me use the CanMatch now. If I use the CanMatch route guard and the function defaults to false, let's see what happens. So now using the CanMatch on the about route guard. So if I click on about, I'm redirected to the error 404 page, right? So why does this happen, right? I mean, the route is defined in the routing module, but what does it show the 404 page? The 404 page should only show for routes that are not defined, right? And that's exactly what is happening in this case. If I'm using the CanMatch and the function evaluates to false, the route in question becomes non-existent. So this function becomes non-existent. This entire route becomes non-existent, and in the end, it will redirect us to the not found component. But if I use the can activate route guard, the route still exists. It still be there, but I can't access it. So yeah, that's the fundamental difference between CanMatch and CanActivate. If I try to access the about page, the route is still there, but I can't access it. But if I use the CanMatch and it evaluates to false, that route becomes non-existent. And that property for the CanMatch can come quite handy if you have same routes, if you have routes with the same name. Let's say we have two about pages, but the first about route shows the about component, let's say users about component, and the second about shows, let's say, the company about component. So these two are the same. These two have the same routes. And what happens in Angular? Angular uses the first match wins strategy for routes. So let's say if this route is matched first, and I don't necessarily have to use route guards. If there are two routes that have the same name, and this is matched first, this is the one that will be rendered. The second one will be forgotten. Yeah, that's the strategy that Angular uses. So in this example, CanMatch, if let's say now in a real world application, we'll use a function like a login, say is admin, admin. So now, if the admin guard returns true, it will show that route. And in this case, let's say currently it returns true. It returns true. If it returns true for this specific component, this component will be shown, and the other will be non-existent. Let me use, I think that's a bit confusing. Let's say is user. Yeah, it's user Yeah, that's a better example. Sorry for that. So let's say we have two different guards. One checking if the current user is a user, is an authenticated user, and the other if the user is an admin level user. If the first function evaluates to true and they have the same routes, if this is true, then this route will show. And if this is false, this route will become non-existent. So yeah, that's what CanMatch does. And same case applies here. If this is true, this route will show, and this will become non-existent. And this can be applied in different scenarios. You can have paths, a route where you have like a dashboard. The dashboard has, let's say, user dashboard components as the CanMatch property. User. Then here we have the admin. This guard checks if it is admin. So yeah, this can be applied in a real world setting if you want to have different levels of access to one route. Right? Yes, the route is the same, but you want to have different users access it differently. You can use the CanMatch because if it defaults to false, the route becomes non-existent. Yeah, that's an application. They CanMatch. You have looked at the can activate so far. You have looked at the can deactivate guard. You have looked at the can activate child, the resolve guard, and the CanMatch. So yeah, this was meant to be a bit of an overview. I hope you've understood the general concept of route guards. Yeah, let me go back to the slides. So yeah, yeah, what are the key takeaways in this session? We've learned that functional route guards in Angular help secure routes based on conditions. The conditions can involve checking if a user is logged in, if the user is an admin, etc. They allow you to control the access, they allow you to protect the child routes, they allow data prefetching and confirm the activation. So yeah, that's basically it from route guards. Yeah, they're just simple really. And in the code you've seen, it's just a function that defaults, that returns true or false, depending on a condition. Yeah, I've meeting all of you. That's all I had about functional route guards. Thank you for listening till the end. And in case you want to reach out for maybe a discussion or questions, you can reach out to me through these social media and thanks. Have a good day.
You. Thank you
Yes.
very much. Thank you very much, Patrick. That was an amazing session, and it's always great to hear about there's actually new ways of doing stuff because I think for since Angular started, people are used to class-based cards, and I think one of the key things that Angular team has always been looking at is how can we make the code less verbose? That is, making it more concise and having less of boilerplate data. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I think we had questions. Was it Eric? Got a question?
Hi, Patrick. Thanks for that overview. It was very educative. So I just wanted to ask about, I have two questions. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I want to ask, okay, this is with regard to basically I just want to make sure that we are getting this right. So can activate, can deactivate, can activate child, and can match are interfaces, but resolve can be seen to be a guard by itself, right?
Yeah,
That is number one. Number two, so this is the use case where you are using the resolve interface, sorry, the resolve guard. So you're trying to load data from an API.
Yeah.
What would happen if the internet you're trying to fetch the data from is a bit slow? What would happen? Is it going to like delay the loading of the page forever until that data is loaded?
Yeah, okay. So for that particular, I'm going to, so I'll answer the last question. So in a situation where the data is a bit large, in my example, I just use this, it's a simple scenario. So in that case, you can have a function to check using arcgis to check like the delay. If the delay exceeds a certain amount of time, let's say 5 seconds, then you can log an error message or show an error message saying that this took too long to display, try again later, or something like that. Alternatively, we can opt out from using a resolve guard. Some usually prefer to use a loading animation. So when the data is loading, you put that loading animation and it will be active until the data loads in. So yeah, you can put a loading animation, or you can write some logic to ensure that if the time taken to load a certain amount of data exceeds this time, stop the loading animation, show a error message, and then yeah, for better user experience. Have I answered your question?
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other questions I can ask? Oh, so I think before you guys ask, I had forgotten to mention that also initially the resolve route guard was a service. So while we had the route guards as class-based route guards, these resolve guards were services that implemented the resolve interface. Quite similar, and yeah, but now that we have functional guards, everything is now as a function that returns true or false, but this returns the data you want to resolve. Yeah. Yeah, any other questions? I think I'm done on my part.